The 7 most dangerous cults that actually fooled millions. Let's start with the cults that were merely completely devastating and work our way towards the ones that make every other organization on this list look like they needed a few more years of practice. Number 7. Nxivm, 2003. Nxivm presented itself to the world as a self-improvement organization. It offered executive success programs, professional development courses, and personal growth seminars. Its founder, Keith Raniere, positioned himself as one of the smartest people alive. He claimed to have the highest IQ ever recorded, to have been a concert-level pianist at the age of 12, and to have mastered judo, volleyball, and several other disciplines to a professional level simultaneously. None of these claims were independently verified. All of them were believed by tens of thousands of people. Nxivm attracted actors, politicians, heiresses, and executives. The Seagram's liquor heiresses, Claire and Sarah Bronfman, donated over $150 million to the organization. The actress Allison Mack from the television series Smallville was a senior member. At its peak, Nxivm operated in multiple countries with thousands of paying members. Concealed within Nxivm was a secret sorority called DOS, a Latin acronym meaning Lord and Master. Female members were recruited with the promise of exclusive personal development. Once inside, they were required to provide damaging personal information as collateral, information that would be released if they left. They were required to maintain a strict diet that left many visibly malnourished. They were branded with a cauterizing iron with Raniere's initials. Raniere was arrested in 2018 following an investigation by the New York Times and was convicted on all counts, including sex trafficking in 2019. He was sentenced to 120 years in federal prison. The women who joined Nxivm were not naive. They were accomplished, they were successful, they were intelligent, and they were systematically manipulated by someone who had spent decades perfecting exactly how to do it.
Number 6. Branch Davidians, 1993. The Branch Davidians were a religious sect based in Waco, Texas, led by David Koresh, a man who believed himself to be the final prophet and the only person capable of opening the 7 seals described in the book of Revelation. Koresh controlled every aspect of his followers' lives. He determined who could marry, who could have children, what members could eat, and when they could sleep. He declared himself spiritually entitled to take any woman in the compound as a spiritual wife, including minors. He had an estimated 15 spiritual wives at the time of the siege. In February 1993, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms attempted to execute a search warrant at the Branch Davidian compound, Mount Carmel Center. The raid went catastrophically wrong. 4 federal agents were killed. 6 Branch Davidians died. A 51-day standoff began. The FBI took over negotiations. David Koresh negotiated endlessly, promised peaceful resolutions, and delivered none. On April 19, 1993, the FBI inserted tear gas into the compound and armored vehicles breached the walls. Fires broke out. Whether started by the occupants or caused by the assault remains disputed. The compound burned. 76 people died. 25 of them were children. Koresh died in the fire. He was 33 years old. The Waco siege became one of the most analyzed and debated events in American law enforcement history. What is not debated is that 25 children were inside that compound because adults had chosen to follow a man who told them he was a prophet and had given him complete control over their lives.
Number 5. The Order of the Solar Temple, 1994. The Order of the Solar Temple was a secret society founded in Geneva in 1984 by Luc Jouret and Joseph Di Mambro. It presented itself as a chivalric order, continuing the tradition of the Knights Templar. Its members were wealthy, educated, and prominent. Politicians, police officers, a mayor, a journalist, a civil servant who had worked for the Quebec government. These were not people anyone would describe as obviously susceptible to manipulation. The founders taught that death was an illusion, and that the souls of true initiates would travel to a star in the Sirius system upon physical death, to be reborn as solar beings. They also taught that the end of the world was approaching, and that only the initiated would survive it by departing in advance. On October 4th and 5th, 1994, the bodies of 53 people were found across 3 locations in Switzerland and Quebec. Some had been murdered, some had died in ritualistic suicides. The deaths had been coordinated across 2 countries simultaneously. Among the dead was a 3-month-old infant, who the founders believed was the Antichrist. Further mass deaths followed. 16 more members died in France in 1995, 5 more in Quebec in 1997. A total of 74 people died in the Order of the Solar Temple's transit rituals between 1994 and 1997. The investigation that followed revealed that the founders had been systematically defrauding members for years, and that DiMambro's claims of miraculous visions had been produced by hidden projectors. The entire spiritual framework was manufactured. The deaths were real.
Number 4. Heaven's Gate, 1997. In March 1997, the Hale-Bopp comet was visible in the night sky above Earth. Astronomers around the world observed it. It was considered one of the most spectacular celestial events of the decade. Marshall Applewhite, the leader of the Heaven's Gate religious group, told his followers that a spacecraft was traveling behind the comet and that it had come to collect them. Heaven's Gate taught that the human body was simply a container, a vehicle to be discarded when its purpose was complete. The soul, which Applewhite called the next-level mind, needed to exit the physical body in order to board the craft and evolve to a higher state of existence. The 39 members of the group who remained with Applewhite at the end had been working toward this moment for years. Over 3 days beginning March 26, 1997, all 39 members died in a planned mass death at their rented mansion in Rancho Santa Fe, California. They dressed in identical black clothing and Nike shoes. They drank phenobarbital mixed with applesauce and vodka. They lay on their beds. They placed purple shrouds over their faces and chests. They were found by a former member who had received a package in the mail. The group included former college professors, computer programmers, a former Episcopalian minister, and a nurse. The average age was 26. Several members had been with Applewhite for over 20 years. Marshall Applewhite died with his followers. He was 65 years old. He had been telling people about the spacecraft for 22 years. He appears, by all available evidence, to have genuinely believed every word of it. Number 3. Movement for the Restoration of the 10 Commandments of God, 2000. The Movement for the Restoration of the 10 Commandments of God was founded in Uganda in the 1980s by a group of former Catholic Church members who claimed to receive visions from the Virgin Mary. Their theology was extreme, even by the standards of this list. Members were forbidden from speaking. Communication was conducted entirely through sign language to avoid the sin of lying. Members were forbidden from washing too frequently, from having sex even within marriage, and from eating certain foods. All possessions were surrendered to the movement upon joining. By the end of the 1990s, leadership had repeatedly predicted the end of the world and been repeatedly wrong. Members who had surrendered their possessions and livelihoods began to demand them back. The movement's credibility was collapsing. On March 17, 2000, members were invited to a final celebration at the movement's church in Kanungu, Uganda. Windows and doors had been nailed shut. Fuel had been stockpiled inside. The church was set on fire. Over 500 people died. Subsequent investigations of movement properties uncovered additional mass graves across Uganda. The total death toll is estimated at over 900 people, making this one of the largest cult-related mass deaths in history, larger than Jonestown, larger than any other single event on this list except the one that follows it. Most people outside of Africa have never heard of it. Number 2. Aum Shinrikyo, 1995. Aum Shinrikyo was founded in Japan in 1984 by Shoko Asahara, a partially blind yoga instructor who claimed to be the reincarnation of Jesus Christ, Buddha, and the Hindu god Shiva simultaneously. At its peak, Aum Shinrikyo had approximately 50,000 members worldwide, including a significant number of highly educated scientists, engineers, and doctors. The organization had tens of millions of dollars in assets. It had political ambitions. It ran candidates for the Japanese parliament in 1990, all of whom lost. After the political failure, Asahara concluded that the end of the world was approaching
and that Aum would need to accelerate it. The organization began producing chemical and biological weapons inside its facilities, staffed by members who had advanced degrees in chemistry and biology, and who believed they were doing the work of their prophet. On March 20th, 1995, Aum Shinrikyo operatives released sarin gas on 5 lines of the Tokyo subway system during the morning rush hour. Sarin is a nerve agent so lethal that a single drop on the skin is sufficient to kill an adult human being. The attack killed 13 people, severely injured 50, and caused temporary vision problems in nearly 1,000 others. It was the first time a non-state organization had successfully deployed a chemical weapon against a civilian population in a major city. Shoko Asahara was arrested in May 1995 and executed in 2018. His execution was carried out on the same day as 6 of his senior disciples. 7 people were hanged on the same morning. The organization still exists. It has changed its name twice. It currently operates under the name Olive and has an estimated 1,500 members in Japan.
Number 1. People's Temple, Jonestown, 1978. Jim Jones founded the People's Temple in Indianapolis in 1955. At its peak, the organization had approximately 20,000 members across the United States. It operated food banks, drug rehabilitation programs, and homeless shelters. It had relationships with prominent politicians, including the governor of California and the mayor of San Francisco. Jim Jones was a celebrated civil rights advocate and progressive religious leader. By the mid-1970s, Jones had become addicted to prescription drugs, was conducting staged faith-healing sessions using planted audience members, and was using beatings, sleep deprivation, and public humiliation to control members of the church. Those who tried to leave were threatened. Former members who spoke publicly about conditions inside the temple were followed and harassed. In 1977, Jones moved the core of his congregation to a settlement in the jungle of Guyana that he called Jonestown. He told them it was a socialist utopia. What they found was a compound controlled by armed guards, where they worked in fields and attended nightly meetings, where Jones, broadcasting over loudspeakers for hours, told them that enemies were closing in. On November 14, 1978, United States Congressman Leo Ryan flew to Jonestown to investigate reports of abuse. He was accompanied by journalists and concerned family members of People's Temple members. On November 18th, as Ryan's delegation attempted to leave with defectors, People's Temple gunmen opened fire on the airstrip. Congressman Ryan, 3 journalists, and a defecting temple member were killed. That same afternoon, Jim Jones gathered his congregation. He told them the time had come for what he called a revolutionary suicide. Vats of Flavor Aid drink mixed with cyanide, sedatives, and tranquilizers were prepared. Parents were instructed to administer the mixture to their children first, using syringes. Children died in the arms of parents, who then died themselves. 918 people died on November 18, 1978. 304 of them were children. Jim Jones died of a gunshot wound to the head. It is not known whether it was self-inflicted. The phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" has entered the English language as an idiom for unquestioning belief. Its origin is 918 people dead in a jungle in Guyana, including 304 children who had no choice in the matter at all. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed.